stuff. Actually, we're going to play. We are going to watch an animated story called "I Have a Perfect Memory I Can Even Remember." So let's start.
I've been listening to my parents fight since before I was born. And I mean that literally. See, it didn't take them long to realize there was something strange about their daughter. As soon as I learned to talk, which happened really fast by the way, I would describe things we had done yesterday or last week. My parents said I remembered things in amazing detail, like crazy detail. They thought I was a genius, and it even got them to stop fighting for a while. See, I didn't even know my parents' constant fighting was weird. It was all I had ever known. When I started going over to my friends' houses to play, I saw how their parents smiled at each other, how they seemed happy, and their homes were cozy and warm. Mine felt cold and dark. I decided the best way to make my parents act normal was to keep impressing them with my memory. The problem was, my amazing memory started getting in my way. At school, sometimes I couldn't concentrate on the lessons because my brain was so full of memories. I could remember everything that happened the day before, the week before, the month before, even years before. I was pretty sure I could remember every single day of my life. Oh, and real quick, if you hit like and subscribe, it'll make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, guys, if you click like and subscribe, it will make you cozy. Okay, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button.
Just like your favorite childhood memory. One day, we took a trip to see my aunt. My parents said it was time to finally meet her and my cousin. They only live like an hour away, but for most of my childhood, my parents had acted like that was just too far to visit. Really, I think it was because my mom didn't like her sister much. This is the way we went when I was a baby, I told them as we drove. My dad turned around and stared at me. My mom yelled at him to watch the road. What do you mean? He asked. We went down these roads and we went to a lady's house. It had cats everywhere. My parents were silent for a long time. You can't remember that far back, my mom said. It's impossible. How else would she know those details? My dad asked my mom. We must have shown her a picture of Aunt Judy's house, but they hadn't. I just remembered it. I got distracted then, remembering other things from that day. The memories were a little fuzzy, I guess since I didn't have the words at the time to identify what was going on. But I remembered my mom crying on the way there and back. So loud. The sound of it had made me cry too. The memory of our crying got stuck in my head, and I almost didn't notice we had reached Aunt Judy's. My mom looked upset as we walked to the door. What's wrong? I asked her. She smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. Nothing, she said. Let's go see your aunt. Aunt Judy was nice. My cousin Philip was okay, I guess. I mean, I was at an age where boys were icky, but my parents kept staring at him and saying how beautiful he was and how he was growing up so fast. Beautiful? Blech, barf. I got bored fast. The whole house smelled like a cat litter box. My mind drifted back to the memories, and I could hear my mom's crying again, mixing with my tiny baby cries. What's wrong with you? Philip asked. You just totally spaced out there. Whatever, I said. I'm bored. Let's go see the attic, he said. Finally, something exciting! He said we had to be really quiet because he wasn't allowed to go up there. The steps were very narrow and slippery. We snuck away from our parents, and I followed him to the long, dark staircase. We started going up, but I hesitated, feeling like I was in a horror movie, like the darkness would swallow me whole. I started crawling, but I couldn't see where I was putting my feet. I slipped and fell back down the stairs. There was a horrible pain in my leg, and I started to cry. My parents drove me to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital, I said through my tears. It's too bright there. You've never been to the hospital, my dad said. No, when we were there before, it was too bright and everything was cold. My dad looked very confused. I wasn't quite sure how to explain it. It was dark and warm, and then it was like opening a window during a snowstorm. Suddenly it was so white and I was cold, but then Mom was holding me. My mom turned to stare at me. Are you talking about when you were born? That must be it. I could remember that moment perfectly, when I'd moved from the warmth of my mom's belly out into the world. Yes! My mom turned white like a ghost. Don't you ever say that again, she said. Nobody remembers when they are born. Lying is wrong. I remember it, I insisted. Stop it right now, my mother shouted. I was hurt and scared, so I stopped talking. The hospital was bright, just like I remembered, but it wasn't that cold. Getting my broken leg put in a cast hurt. I wanted my mom to hold my hand, but I was afraid she was still angry with me. I mostly forgot about the incident for the next few weeks as I struggled to adjust to life with a broken leg. But something had changed. Whenever I told my parents stuff I remembered, they told me I was wrong. No, my mom would say. You weren't wearing the pink dress. You were wearing a green dress that day. It was like they needed to prove to me my memory wasn't perfect. Stop lying, my mom started telling me. You have a serious problem. My dad seemed less angry about it, but he still took my mom's side. This went on for so long that I started questioning my own sanity. What if all my memories were really just stuff I'd made up? One day, my worst fears became reality. My parents said they were taking me to see a psychiatrist. They said I was a pathological liar and needed help. My parents had gone from thinking I was a genius to thinking I was crazy. I wanted to run away, but where would I go? So I went with them to the psychiatrist. He listened as my parents described how out of control my lying had gotten. I wanted to scream, to say none of this was true. But when he asked for my side of the story, I was afraid to go against my parents. So I just stayed silent. I had to keep seeing the psychiatrist. He put me on a medication that made me feel drowsy. It also messed with my perfect memory. I started doing badly in school. And worse, I started believing my parents. I was crazy. My memories were lies. What if I didn't get better and I had to go to a mental institution? I didn't have any siblings to tell whether my childhood memories were real. My mom had always hated having a sister, and she had wanted an only child. So I was on my own. I became lonely and depressed. By the time I got into high school, I felt like a ghost. I was still on my medication. I was a bad student and I didn't have any friends. But one morning, I forgot to take my pill. I had an amazing day at school. I could actually focus for once, and I impressed my teachers with all the stuff I memorized. My speech class, which I had been dreading, went so well. I felt like a new person up in front of the class giving my speech. I didn't need to use my note cards at all. Afterward, the teacher kept me after class. She said I should join the debate team, which traveled around competing with other schools in the state. She thought it would be good for me. I said, thinking about all the days my pills made me too tired to think, and about the lies my brain kept making up. What if I got up to debate at a competition, and everything out of my mouth was pure BS? I couldn't risk that. I have to go, I said. Then I ran home. But the teacher kept asking me every day, until finally, I agreed to come to a debate club meeting. Before I went, I skipped my pills again. Maybe if I could just think clearly, I would be able to stop myself before I told a lie. I expected all the kids to think I was a weirdo loser, like everyone else in school did. But they actually seemed to like me. I did really well as part of the club, and I stopped taking my pills altogether. I couldn't tell my parents about my new hobby, so I said I was staying after school for tutoring. At my first match against another school, I felt ready to go out there and win, until I saw my opponent. It was my cousin Philip. I barely recognized him. I hadn't seen him since that night I broke my leg. We caught up before the match, and he was nice and fun to talk to. We even watched my story animated together on my phone. But when it was time to go on stage, we were all business. It was a tight match, and I could feel the adrenaline rush through me. I did well at first, but then my overactive memory started getting in the way. I would remember things Philip had said to me before the match, a certain way he smiled, and then suddenly, I was remembering things from when we were kids. Focus, I told myself. You can't lose this. At the end, the judge declared me the winner. I was so excited. Where are you gonna put your ribbon? Phil asked me afterward. My good mood vanished. I wasn't going to be able to put my ribbon anywhere, because if my parents saw, I would be in huge trouble. I don't know, I said. He noticed I was sad and said, "It was a good match. Do you feel like going out for ice cream?" We did, and we had such a fun evening together. He told me about his plans to study political science in college. I hadn't even thought about what I would do in college. What was a crazy lying freak like me going to do for a living? I can't believe how well you had your talking points memorized, he told me. That was really incredible. It had been so long since someone thought my memory was awesome, rather than a sign of mental illness. I realized I felt a strong connection with Philip, and I didn't want to go home. We agreed we would video chat online and help each other with our debate skills. Even though you're my rival, he said with a grin. We stayed in touch, and when we saw each other at another match, we spent the evening together again. We ended up talking about our crushes. He had a crush on the president of his school's Spanish club, and I had a crush on one of the baseball players at my school. I don't even know how to kiss, I said. I had like zero social life until now. He laughed. That's sad if your cousin is your social life. And even sadder that you don't know how to kiss. You can practice on me if you want. Gross, I said, even though I knew he was teasing. We're cousins. You should see your face. He was cracking up. You thought I was serious. No, I didn't. Would you do it if I dared you? He asked. We were just kidding around, but I actually was desperate to know how it felt like to kiss somebody. He stuck his lips out, joking, like he was waiting for me to try it. I decided to scare him. I leaned in until my lips were almost against his. Suddenly, we both pulled away and fell backwards, laughing like hyenas. I said, spitting and rubbing my mouth. He did the same. It was weird though. I felt such a strange connection to him. Not like a crush exactly, just like we were meant to become friends. Even though it was pathetic that my cousin was my best friend, when I got home that night, I was walking on air until I saw my mom waiting for me. She held up my medication bottle and rattled the pills. "Explain this." She sounded furious. "You should be almost done with this bottle by now. We should be calling in for a refill. Why is the bottle full?" I thought about making up an excuse, but she already thought I was a liar, so I just told the truth. "I thought you were getting better," she shouted. "But now your lies have reached a whole new level. We'll have to go back to the psychiatrist." "Mom, no!" I begged. "I'm finally happy. I'm so much better when I'm not on the pills. I can think more clearly." "The pills help you," she interrupted. "They keep your condition under control. I can't believe you do this. Lying about your medication? About where you've been? You're not going back to that club. And you're not going to see Philip ever again." I started crying. "Mom, please! You can't take him away from me!" I cried so hard I thought I was going to throw up. All the good things in my life were disappearing, but my sobs brought back a memory from a long, long time ago. I was just a baby in my mother's arms, and I was crying as she took me away from Aunt Judy's house. Crying because I felt like my heart was breaking. My mom grabbed my arm, but then she looked at me and started crying too. She let me go. The sound of us both crying brought the memory back clearer than ever. We were in the car, driving away from Aunt Judy's. But this time, I could see not just her and Dad in the front seats, but the empty seat beside me, where a second baby carrier had been just moments before. I gasped and stared at my mom. Philip was my brother. She was crying too hard to reply. "I remember. We were born together. We were born in your arms. And then..." "Stop!" my mother screamed. "You don't remember that. You can't!" But I didn't stop. "You drove us both to Aunt Judy's, but you only brought me home." "You're a liar!" "No!" I shouted back. "I'm not!" Suddenly, I heard my dad's voice. "It's time to tell her." I looked at him and asked, "Tell me what?" They told me how my mom had wanted an only child so badly. When they'd found out they were pregnant with twins, they made secret arrangements to give one of the babies to Aunt Judy, who couldn't have kids. The painful choice made my mom so depressed. She hadn't wanted to see Aunt Judy or Philip ever again. But finally, she couldn't resist. She had to see her other child, so we visited Aunt Judy. But after that night, her guilt got worse. She knew she had to do something to keep me from remembering the truth. I couldn't believe it. My mom's lies had ruined most of my life. But the way she looked at me after she told her story, I knew she'd been hurt too. We both had. I wasn't ready to forgive her yet, but she promised we'd have a meeting with Aunt Judy and Philip and figure out a way to repair our broken family. I realized then that she truly did love me, even if the weight of her terrible secret had kept her from showing it until now.
That was a nice story. So you guys can comment down below on what you guys want me to do my next video on. So make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. So bye.